Hi, this is Patrick Henry, the CEO of GroGuru. I'm here today with my co-founders, Farooq Anjum, who is our VP of Engineering and Chief Technology Officer. Farooq is a PhD in electrical engineering with just a terrific background prior to coming to GroGuru. And also with Jeff Campbell. Jeff is our Chief Scientific Officer and the inventor of the wireless underground system, which enables the permanent installation of soil sensors even in annual field crops. Jeff is a PhD in physics and has worked in the soil sensor game for well over 30 years. So great to have you guys on today. Just wanted to give our audience a little bit more background and color on how you came to be with GroGuru and a little bit more about your background. So maybe we'll start with you, Farooq.
Sure, happy to do that. So after getting my PhD from University of Maryland College Park, I dabbled in various aspects of research and then joined a product-focused organization, Qualcomm, a large company, got antsy, joined a startup where I dabbled in various aspects of engineering, led different teams out there, and networks designed by me were deployed in a lot of countries. These networks were for machine-to-machine communication. And while working at Qualcomm, I came across this personal problem about how to grow plants efficiently and started looking for sensors that could help us do that. Found out that there was a need. At the same time, I also found out that while the problem was important for residential customers also, it is not really a pain point. And that's when I met Jeff. We started talking, we looked at a couple of different markets, the commercial landscaping market, which is again, another big market where there's a lot of potential to help the landscapers irrigate efficiently, as well as the commercial farming market. And that's how we had various pivots along the GroGuru journey.
So that's probably a good point where you to jump in there, Jeff. Why don't you give us a little about your background and then what you were doing when you met with Farooq?
Sure. My family is from Lincoln, Nebraska, and we've always been kind of peripherally involved with agriculture through both in the Midwest, but also in California with some orchard and vineyard activity. And when I went to Dartmouth to get my PhD in physics, I've always been interested in geophysics. I looked at studying the electrical properties of soils. And that led to some field work and a sensor design that was subsequently licensed out to a company that I joined not too long after getting my PhD and commercialized that sensor. And it's still a very active sensor today, the Hydra sensor made by Stevens Water. And I've been involved in designing and building numerous sensors. We built a custom sensor for GroGuru as well. And through a lot of my field experience, a lot of what I've done points out that the real hardship of trying to install sensors on a seasonal basis is just so labor intensive, difficult, and a fraught process that disturbs the sensor every time you take it in and out of the ground. It takes a while to kind of settle in and reflect the true environment. And so it becomes kind of disruptive and very awkward to do that. And so one of the things I looked at and got involved with shortly after joining GroGuru was looking for a very short range communication approach that would allow these sensors to remain buried in the ground. And that's the WUGS protocol that we've developed. That's a real game changer in that field.
Yeah, it's interesting. So Jeff's giving the sanitized version of this story, I think. But when I met these guys, Jeff told me the story of like he was knee deep in mud, trying to install cable-based sensors in the Midwest and just holding his hands up in the air and thinking there's got to be a better way. So, the wireless underground system really is a better way, and it's proving out to be something that has been just a real game changer for the field crop farmers in the Midwest and, other parts of the country as well. And I think over time worldwide.
Yeah, to add to that, Patrick, yeah, Jeff has been talking about the pain that he had to go through. I mean, he had focused on deploying some of these soil sensors. And Jeff, you got to tell those stories where they had to go out there with a grown corn and figure out how to install the sensors, getting, taking all the hardware into the field where you got to deploy the sensors. It's real pain. Now you also hear that from the others on the team, David and the others. But Jeff has had that experience firsthand.
Yeah,
And I also had some of that experience, not as much as Jeff had, when we had to deploy our cable soil sensors in the 100-degree Fahrenheit temperature. You can't do it when you want. You had to do it at a particular point in time and stuff like that.
it's hard to underestimate just how awkward it can be to work out in the field under real conditions. It can be raining, it can be 90 degrees and humid. You can be wading through the mud. You know, you may not have good access. You may not be able to find the points you want to install at. Even just trying to use a laptop can be challenging just because of the bright sunlight. The wind can be blowing and howling. The rain can be coming down. It's just a very challenging environment. So anything you can do to make that install process speedy and have flexibility of when you do it, so you can be opportunistic about timing when you have good conditions, as well as just doing it once and then not having to do it again in the fall, as well as the next season over and over and over again. So anything you can do there really, really helps.
Yeah, I think that's, go ahead, Farooq.
And with our work system, I now work with the field team also, right? It is such a ease for them to be able to drive up, because there is nothing planted in the ground, being able to drive up to the location where they have to dig the hole. They don't have to lug the sensors and these various other things all the way, maybe even 100 feet pulling and taking that when the plants have been planted and stuff like that. It's real pain out there.
It's
So,
easy to get lost.
I'm sorry?
It's easy to get lost in the cornfield.
That's true too. And so when it's much easier to do this installation in the ground when there is nothing out there. Be able to drive up there, just do a quick dig the hole, install the probe, drive out of there. It's such a easy solution at this point compared to how it has been in the past.
Yeah, it's you know, if you look at kind of the competitive alternatives, and Jeff touched on this a little bit, but you have a very restrictive window of when you can put the sensors in the ground, you know, within like a 4-week period after crop emergence. And by that time, there's already crop coming out of the ground. So it's not like, you know, head high corn, but you got to make sure you're not disturbing the crop. And if it rains, 4 weeks becomes 3 weeks. And, you know, it can be a real messy job. Then in the fall, 4 weeks prior to harvest, when you do have head high corn, finding the sensor, getting in there, you know, it's a real challenge. And this solution, I mean, one of the most gratifying things for me is the customer testimonials and the case studies that we have, that the customers just love what I call the 2.0 version of soil sensors for commercial ag, which is what GroGuru provides.
And you know, the testimonials are amazing, but I think the testimonials will be even more amazing going forwards. And I think that touches on a really important advantage that we have, not just the ease of installation, but having the continuity of the data. Having the data all year round, year after year, at the very same site on a sensor that has had plenty of time to settle into the actual field conditions makes the data much, much more valuable and useful. And right now, you know, we don't have sensors in the ground for more than, I think, 18 months or so as a maximum. But as that builds, the value of that data gets better and better as people have the past history that they can use going forwards from the exact spot, same sensors, same installation. That really, really makes using last year's decision points going forwards much more reliable, much quicker to be able to use the data, understand it, and interpret.
And not
Yeah, I
to
love
talk
that
about
kind of, go ahead, Farooq.
And not to talk about the fact that these farmers have the data even before planting, which they did not have earlier. I think, Patrick, you talked to one of our customers who was going really gaga over the fact that he had the data to start making decisions even before any irrigation was done in the ground, right? So the real valuable data. And even from an AI perspective, this data is golden. I mean, we don't have to do all the normalization of data and all that stuff. And still, even with all that, you don't have continuous data with the alternative competitive solutions. And hence, the recommendations will not be precise. Whereas with our permanently buried 12 months in the ground, so not only is the installation easier, but also the recommendations are much more precise for the farmers.
Yeah, and I think the other thing, just like one of our major markets is Texas. And oftentimes they'll use as much as a third of their water before they even plant. And, historically they've been putting in sensors, a couple weeks after planting, after they've already used a third of their water budget. They've had to do that basically blind, just using, holding up their finger into the wind and kind of guessing what they should be doing. We can give them that data well up into planting season. They can see rainfall events in the winter. They can see the natural soil profile. They can see what response happens when they irrigate. They can irrigate up the soil to the exact condition they want. Maybe that's less water than they were using before. Maybe it could even be more water, but they get the right conditions to get the maximum yield out of that crop. In those Texas areas, they can't get water on fast enough in the summer. So it's crucial that they get a wet soil profile coming into the growing season, and we can help them establish that.
Yeah, it's some of our existing customers in that region in particular have talked about there's no way that they can keep up with the crop from an irrigation standpoint during the growing season. So if they don't pre-irrigate, they're not going to maximize crop yield. So you're right, they've been flying completely blind. I think one of the most interesting things for me, and you guys have had this kind of vision around the clean data, the machine learning capability, the beginning of season data, season to season variability. That's typically not the reason why farmers initially adopt. They adopt purely from the standpoint of, okay, it's a permanent install, it's going to be a much more scalable solution because we have a way bigger install window. We only have to install it once every 5 years. So it's about 30x more scalable than the competitive alternatives. And it lowers the total cost of ownership and kind of the pain in the butt factor because labor is super scarce around those times of seeding and harvest. But what we're seeing, with after one season, we're into our second season of data, all the things that we're talking about here are starting to be understood by farmers, and they're really valuing those things as well. So it's very, very gratifying.
Yeah, hearing some of the customer testimonials is awesome. I mean,
yeah, so let's talk a little bit about, okay, so I'll tell a little bit about my story, how I got involved with GroGuru. So I met Farooq through some mutual acquaintances, and subsequently Jeff, as we're getting to the early stages of the company and really in the development phase of the wireless underground system. And initially I got involved as an investor in the company. And about a year later, Farooq and I had been working together on more of an advisory basis, and I joined the company full time. So I've been with the company a little over 2 years now, and I've worked with some really fantastic teams and some brilliant engineers, some brilliant scientists in my career. And I got to say that the GroGuru team, not only in terms of the technical capability and the business acumen and the domain expertise, but the way we work together, the cohesiveness of the team has been really unprecedented in my career. So I don't know how you guys feel about it, but it's just been a great experience for me.
No, I mean, Patrick, yes, since I met you, when was it? When did I?
Early 2017 was when we first
2017.
met.
I sweet talked you into investing in GroGuru, I guess. Maybe I thought you liked my face. That's why you invested. But regardless, more seriously, yeah, I mean, it's been awesome working with you, especially the critical insights that you have, the leadership, the strategy, and all those things. I've learned a lot from you the last several years. So it's been awesome working with you the last several years, and even putting the team together. I mean, I know it was just me and Jeff when I met you. We did not even have a dog, as you heard us say that, right? It was just the two of us. But since then, again, you joined us, and you figured out the strategy, adding the salespeople, business development team, and it's been awesome to see where we are at this point in time.
Yeah, and I'd add, not just the congenial work relationship, which is awesome, but also just how all the skills complement. We have such a wide range of skills. To pull this off, you really need a lot of talents, and we have top-notch agronomists, we have great engineers, we have good people in communications and firmware, software, artificial intelligence, you know, the web platform. All those pieces have to be put together, and they all have to work to deliver something to the customer that's, you know, eventually worth something. Without those pieces, you know, you can have the best technical solution out there, but if you can't present the data in a convincing way that a farmer can make decisions, it has no value to the farmer.
And complemented by an awesome sales team. I mean, Vince, who used to work with Patrick in the past life, and Patrick brought him on. I mean, he's been a awesome head of sales in terms of hitting his numbers, taking the product that we are in engineering build to the market and selling it and all that stuff. I mean, we might build the most awesome product, but if the sales team is not good, well, the product is just going to sit on the shelf.
Yeah, I remember pretty soon after I came in on a full-time basis, we were recruiting our chief agronomist, or for that position, and I was introduced, you know, actually through YouTube videos to a gentleman who now works with us, David Sloan. He's a PhD agronomist, has been in irrigation agronomy for over 20 years, Australian guy, but works in the US. And when we were recruiting him and he was kind of getting to know the team, he kind of said, you know, this is like, you know, Ocean's 11, you know, everybody's got their own specialty. And it really does, is to Jeff's point, to pull everything together. There's so many different disciplines, both on the technology and the crop science side, and pulling all those pieces together. And then also doing it in a way that we're building something that's very easy for dealers to sell and install, and very easy for farmers to use. So I think, you know, you really can't underestimate kind of the domain expertise, I guess I would call it, of working with farmers, listening to what they have to say. It's not a typical kind of Silicon Valley type of tech company sales. I mean, we're selling to farmers, and they basically have very strong opinions, but they also recognize value, and they have, when they're going to use something on a day-to-day basis, like they use the GroGuru system, it's got to be simple and very intuitive. So Farooq, maybe you can touch a little bit on that, just from kind of the user interface and the importance of that, and then maybe we'll wrap it up.
Sure, I will do that. But I do want to point out that we are no longer Ocean's 11. We are now Ocean's 13, I guess. I think there's a Ocean's 13 also out there, okay? With the addition of a few more people. But yeah, I mean, internally, our focus is very much on the customer also. That's something that I look at Amazon, their obsessiveness, focused on the customer, trying to make life as easy for the customer. In my past life, I mean, I'm still an engineer, but one of the things that I would do wrong is not focus on the customer experience, but that is something that at GroGuru, myself, the other people on the team, we just focus on the customer experience. The technology might be awesome, but we've got to figure it out how to make it as easy for the customer to use. How do we solve the pain point for the customers? And along those lines, we have built the web application that, as well as the iOS application. Android is coming shortly. But I also hear from the customers, thanks to our sales team, business development team, about how awesome these applications that we have built are for them to use, how easy are they for them to get the information that they need, the farmers need, the growers need in order to make their decisions and all that. And we are continuing to improve that, not standing still there, but adding a lot of other information in there in a very easy to use fashion for the growers to make their decisions.
Yeah, I think that's a key element of it. Our roadmap, even though we have a great product today, the roadmap of what we're doing in terms of capabilities is really pretty outstanding, and really has the opportunity to revolutionize how farmers manage their irrigation decisions. The other piece of it, we've announced this publicly now. We've won a small business innovation grant, SBIR grant from the USDA on cyber agriculture. And this is really in Jeff's area. We're doing a lot of advanced things, kind of advancing the wireless underground technology and advancing what we're doing in terms of battery life and range and capabilities. I know we don't want to preview too much out there, Jeff, but maybe you can touch just a little bit on, what were the reasons why we were able to SBIR grant against such stiff competition?
Well, I think what really captured the, the referees who were reviewing the proposals' interest was the scalability of it. The idea that, instead of trying to just throw out sensors and then rip them out over and over and over again, the ability to, put this in almost like an infrastructure into the farm, and the ability to expand that rapidly, as well as add this kind of capability to a center pivot, and longer term to a drone as well, giving really good mobile coverage of the field conditions with no hardware in the field above the ground ever in the way. Everything is either on existing equipment that's out of the way or is temporary in the field and doesn't have to be manually put out there. It's, again, farmers are so busy, you just cannot underestimate, or you cannot overestimate how quickly something will be discarded if it requires maintenance or extensive labor on their part to keep working. Things have to be put in and forgotten from their standpoint. If they aren't like that, things aren't adopted by farmers. They're just too busy. They have too many things going on. So getting the system down to the point where it can be almost thought of as an afterthought. You literally, you see the system almost entirely as nothing but an app. You don't think of the hardware. That's key to getting it down to that point. The hardware is an enabler. Where we'll really, make waves long term is through the data and the, our display of it, interpretation.
That's awesome.
Did the program about the SBI grant, Jeff, did the program manager not say that we had one of the best proposals that he had seen or something like that?
Yes, yeah. So that was quite encouraging. Yeah, I think the concept, people in agriculture get the concept very quickly. I mean, they've all seen the existing sensors and they've all dealt with the problems and they all understand the issues. So when you tell people, you like the data, well, we can give you the same data, only now guess what? You don't have to keep installing and uninstalling. And on top of that all, you get better data. You get it all year round and you get the continuity from year to year. That's a pretty easy sell to a lot of these people because they're already sold on the value of the data. But their adoption has been limited by the hassles involved in the system. So by taking those out, by doing the permanent install and improving the quality of the data and the usefulness of the data, that makes for a pretty simple value proposition to many farmers.
Well, this has been great. I really appreciate you guys spending some time doing this. I know you're super busy, but I'm sure the audience really will enjoy getting to know a little bit more about your guys' backgrounds and what we're doing and where we're going. So thanks a lot. Any closing remarks from either one of you guys?
No, again, thanks to all the people who believe the GroGuru story, and we are working towards helping the farmers do help the farmers with their decision making, especially when it comes to irrigation management, so that they can see the benefits of it. Benefits like one of the almond farmer who could get about $1,000 per acre just by putting in $20 to $30 per acre. Stories like that really make me really, really happy. And thanks everyone for joining this journey in terms of helping the farmers.
Yeah, it's been very gratifying to see the level of support. We're very thankful for that. And, it's been a great ride, and I'm sure the future is going to be even brighter than what it is right now. So looking forward very much to how the software and the hardware evolves.
Thanks, Jeff. Yeah, so this is Patrick Henry. I'm the CEO of GroGuru. I'm here with Farooq Anjum, PhD, who is our Chief Technology Officer and VP of Engineering, and Jeff Campbell, our Chief Scientific Officer, who's also a PhD in physics. And hope you guys have enjoyed this. And thank you for your interest and support of the GroGuru journey.